Hi, this is Steve Simmons, and this is a StatMaster training video using the summary screen. By now, most of you have been entering your scores and you've set up your courses and you've put your goals in. And so this video is intended to give you a more of a background discussion of how you might be able to use these stats for potential areas of improving your game. When we created StatMaster, the idea was we wanted to, give you some key statistics that you can use to help to evaluate potential areas of improvement. Obviously one of the important areas to do that is looking at your scoring. So on an aggregate basis for an 18-hole, looking at 18-hole scores, we wanted to give you the average score over the last 20 rounds. The average or your low score over the last 20 rounds, what your most recent score posted is, and then we have the front and back nine scoring numbers here to start off with. Now that may not seem like an important thing to you, but there could be some lessons to be learned from those two numbers. For instance, if your back nine scoring is consistently higher than your front nine scoring, there could be a couple things to consider. One of them might be, is it caused from fatigue? By the time I get to the back nine, am I tired? Are my legs tired? Have I lost my concentration? It could be a nutritional issue that could contribute to your fatigue and concentration issues. You're not eating the right types of food at the turn. You're not hydrating properly, etc. Or it could be a comfort zone issue. Believe it or not, there are players that get started, come out of the blocks and they're sitting there and they make a couple birdies and they immediately get outside their comfort zone and their subconscious mind starts saying, "Man, this is too good to be true," and lo and behold, they make it too good to be true. And so they come back on the back nine and they shoot a score that gets them back into where their expectations and their subconscious mind expectations are. So those numbers may seem like they're not that important, but they can be very important in terms of analysis. We then give you the average score that you have on pars 3s, 4s, and 5s, and that's important because we need to see if you're significantly over par on an average basis for, say, par 5s. Maybe it's because you're too aggressive. Whereas if you back off, instead of trying to hit your par 5s in 2 by hitting driver off the tee, maybe if you back off and use a par 3 or a 3-wood and then a mid-iron and put yourself in position to hit into the green with a pitching wedge, you probably would see those numbers come down as opposed to being overly aggressive. And it's possible that we can also identify not only fairway or tee shot issues, but iron shot accuracy. Greens in regulation on par 3s, 4s, and 5s, that would give us a pretty good indication if we're not hitting the right number of greens in regulation. We either have a tee shot issue in that we're wild off the tee, which is setting us up in the rough or behind the trees and making it very difficult to hit the greens in regulation, or if our fairway numbers off the tee are high, then that means we have an accuracy issue with our irons, and we can kind of then figure out, okay, where's that coming from? Is it short irons, long irons, etc.? We get into our short game numbers where we show you for instance, your chipping attempts. How many attempts did you have in the most recent round? How many of those did you convert? And then what were your percentage? What is your conversion success? We show you that on not only your chipping, but your pitching and your sand shots over here on the right-hand side. We show you what the types of scores you have for each of your rounds of golf and the number of eagles, birdies, pars, etc. So if you have an abnormally high number of a certain type of score like other scores, and you're not, see in our, we should be, we've got a an issue here potentially with other scores. Where did that come from and why? So if we have a unusually high number of bogeys, is there a reason for that? We show you the number of putts, not only from an aggregate number, but also from a total putts that you have when you hit greens in regulation, what those averages are, to kind of give you an idea of what your how well your putting stacks up once you get on the green in regulation. Are we making, or do we have an abnormally high number of 3 putts, or are we able to convert birdie putts better? Now, we're going to have in version 2 the ability to track 3 putts, and we're going to have a whole putting module that's going to go in and analyze this in much more detail. We show you the fairways that you hit, the number of greens that you hit as an aggregate, and then we have an area down here for pre-shot routine. So how many pre-shot routines did I actually use in the last round that I entered? What was the percentage of that in relation to the total number of strokes that I had? And then we have the ability to get in and measure the quality of each of those pre-shots. And we'll get into that in much more detail in the video that talks about entering scores and how you go about doing that. But that's an important thing, because the pre-shot routine is one of the most important parts of being a good player. If you don't have a good pre-shot routine, then you're not going to play consistently. And so we wanted to put a tool in here to help you keep track of how many times do you really have and follow your pre-shot routine, and in comparison to the total number of strokes and then the quality of that. So those are the stats that we're keeping track of. We show those to you on the most recent round. So in this last round, 18 holes that we entered, what were our stats for that round? And then we show you obviously what the numbers are over the last 20 rounds. And then we show you, as you know by now, we have the charting capability to show you how am I doing with my last 20 round number in comparison to what my goal was for each of these categories. In version 2, there are going to be 2 additional charts. One of them is going to be taking my goal and my performance in each of these categories and then looking at it next to how those other handicap ranges are doing it. So it'll show you the scratch player, the 10 handicap, and the 18 handicap player, and then show you your goal and then your numbers compared to those. And then we'll also have a linear chart that'll show you on a linear basis what your last 20 data points look like for each of these categories, so you can see if you're trending up or down. You know, ideally in some of these we want to be trending down and not up, so it's always an important part of being able to look at your last 20 numbers and see if there's a trend that's developing. Plus there's going to be some other things in version 2 that are going to be very significant, but I'm going to put up a whole different training video that's going to show what the version 2 highlights are going to be and what we're trying to accomplish there. So we're excited about version 2. It's going to be a very, very robust scoring analysis capability for the various stats that we're keeping. So if you have questions or concerns, obviously you know that you can enter a support ticket or get a hold of me through the website, and I'll be happy to answer specific questions you may have related to your stats or just the stat issues in general.